I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Tom, in your lifetime, the restaurant you've been most disappointed, saddened, upset to see close?
Connolly's, Post Road, Westport, Connecticut. This tavern that my family used to go to when I was a little kid. And I had this very distinct memory, Kevin, of building salads using the salad bar, making a face. So like the cherry tomatoes would be the eyes. And then I would use some sort of, for the smile. And I used to come every time to the table with a piece of art, and my family just got a kick out of that. And then I came back for college and it was gone. And a little piece of me, my childhood, was gone too. I was very saddened by that.
In 1951, my aunts and uncles opened what was kind of the definitive and only Jewish deli in Atlanta for a very long time. And it closed in 2004. During high school, like I would play hooky and go hang out there. There was actually my favorite sandwich was the bear.
What?
Yeah, the bear was sliced brisket, coleslaw, Munster cheese, and Russian dressing on toasted buttered rye. That was the sandwich. It was the bear. And it closed in 2004 when my aunts and uncles got old and wanted to retire. That was my favorite. So there you go.
That is cool. What a tie-in to this show.
This is Pack Your Knives. I'm Kevin Arnovitz.
And I'm Tom Haberstroh.
And the voice you're going to hear next is Anthony Mayes, producer, who we've heard interjecting on occasion, but now will be a full-fledged contributor today.
That's right. I'm here to talk about the whole season because it's been an interesting experience for me, binging it, listening to you guys parcel out an episode or 2 a week, and then re-binging it about 2 weeks ago. So I'm ready to talk about the entire 3rd season of The Bear.
Maze, why did you binge it? Do you feel like you could have not binged it? And how do you feel about the whole binging process?
I don't love binging, but I also don't love the idea of other people talking about something and me not being able to listen to it because I haven't watched it all yet. I feel an intense pressure to consume the entire show, knowing that there is a conversation that could be happening. I don't think it's the ideal format to have those conversations, but I am forced to, by the powers that be at Hulu and FX, to binge The Bear.
Yeah, it's kind of the big dilemma, right, Kevin? We've been talking about it all season long with The Bear is how would this show be if we had a week-to-week experience a la House of the Dragon or Succession or what have you? I feel like it'd be different. And I have lots of thoughts on this episode. Do you guys want to talk about this episode first, or do you want to talk about the season and then the episode? What say you guys?
The finale in some ways is so representative of the season that I think we can do both simultaneously. I mean, this is essentially this dirge for this beloved restaurant that has been foundational, informative in the lives of all these chefs, most importantly, Carmy. The contrast between Andrea Terry and the tyrant who presided over Carmy's first kitchen, who just kind of abused him, the fact that he's there. But this is a dirge for a particular restaurant, not the most important restaurant in our show. And yet, I do think it's kind of oddly representative of the season, where the show chose, I think, these sort of character windows through dialogue to kind of delve the inner lives of its characters and their consciousness rather than advance the plot. And I don't say that disapprovingly, though I have some issues with it. It's just, it is an appropriate ending for this season, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think when I look back at this, I watched it twice, and when I watched it, I felt like the to be continued really aggravated me.
Yeah, likewise.
This whole season has been a cliffhanger, and it's almost like it's a joke now. It's almost like they were trolling that we actually didn't get the review, and we actually got a little bit of clues from the phone. You know, at the last scene is Carmy looking at the phone and seeing, I wrote it down, the Google alert with the Chicago Tribune restaurant review for The Bear. Cicero, 4 missed calls. Computer, 3 missed calls. And computer, 2 messages. And then fade to black, to be continued. I was like, are you really going to do this to us? The whole season has been leading up to this moment, and it wasn't like inspiring in the way that the fade to black in the spoiler alert, Sopranos.
How dare you?
Yeah.
I think there's a statute of limitations on spoiler alerts for a show that aired in 2007 or 8.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the part in there. I feel like it tried to go with the cliffhanger there, but it further convinces me that this season was not supposed to happen. It was supposed to be for a 3-season show, and they got another season, and then they had to do all this filler because we don't get the review. We don't get the answer from Sydney. And I'm very frustrated by this. And Mayes, I'm sure you listening to us, did you have the same thing on the first viewing of the show that like, man, we didn't get the answers we were seeking, and maybe that can be art. But at the same time, I also think the plot didn't really come together in a way that was very satisfying at all.
I think that's exactly right, but I think that's intentional. And I think that if you're feeling strong emotions based on a show, it's probably for a reason. You're frustrated.
Yeah.
You know who else is frustrated? Everyone at the Bear, except for Marcus. Everyone is frustrated. Everyone is not communicating. Everyone is not talking to each other. Everyone is stuck. And I think what has been most dramatic about this season is that season 2 was a season of ridiculously quick and impressive growth for every single character. You had focused episodes on Marcus, on Richie, even on Sid going on her tour of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone overnight essentially gained 5 levels. Tina goes to culinary school. All of a sudden, she's ready to be the sous chef. Richie's ready to run Expo after 5 days at a good restaurant. Marcus goes to Noma, and all of a sudden he's making high-class desserts. And we bought into it because we love these characters, and we love the show, and we want to root for them. So season 2 was this overwhelmingly positive, uplifting, look at all this transformation. Look at them go from a sandwich shop to a want-to-be Michelin star-rated restaurant. And then season 3 brings that all to a grinding halt. And it turns out it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and you don't become a 3-star Michelin rated restaurant overnight. It takes hard work. And so I think on the whole, on the aggregate, the emotions that we feel watching it simulate the emotions of the people working there. And I think it will be effective. Was it the best season? No, it wasn't.
No.
But season 2 was crazy good. Season 2 was one of the best seasons of television I think I've ever seen. It's up there with any single season that I've watched, front to back. And it had an arc, and it was tremendous. And this season, okay, it didn't deliver the same feelings. And I think that was evident from the first episode where they said, oh, you want the bear? You like the bear? Here's an hour-long tone poem where we're unstuck in Carmy's life, going through his whole journey. And what do we start with? We start with a big old close-up of a scar on his hand. And it couldn't be more heavy-handed of, well, he's scarred. Let's unpack that. Let's see why he's scarred. Let's dive into it. And I think they set themselves up for an awesome season 4. Would it have been better if it was all one season like the original plan was? Maybe. But I think they've laid the groundwork for everybody to have very important resolutions to the series-long arcs that they've had in this show.
The only objection I would say there is that I don't feel much of anything. I don't have strong emotions. I mean, I'm disappointed because it's a show I liked and it wasn't as good, but I don't feel a lot of anything. And I think one of the show's failures this season was just not really producing. I mean, the one time I did feel was, and it's funny, in looking back now that I just watched this episode twice and now I'm done with the season, you know, I actually remember Tina. I mean, the first episode, as you said, the mood poem, which was to me the sort of the diamond of the season, but also in terms of servicing these characters' backstories, I felt something with Tina. I thought it was evocative. It moved me. But I just think that sort of a season of television is a series of decisions. And the creators, granted with this constraint they had, which is we have to somehow shoehorn this thing in between seasons 2 and 4, which we've conceived, and this one, which we haven't, made decisions. And, you know, if I were an annoying network executive sort of giving them notes and they delivered these 10 scripts, I would have said, okay, yeah, some of these are great, but here's an idea. Why don't you do a start to finish episode of The Worst Night at the Bear over these 3 or 4 months? Just, you know, a 38-page script from the moment of service begins to the moment service ends. And I just fail to believe that the talent of this staff would not have produced a more interesting episode than 7 or 9, or, you know, the legacy episode, the various episodes that at least nominally took place in the present at the restaurant, but really didn't, you know. And I just think like that's an assignment, and it's because I do believe in Storer and the staff that I think that would have produced a better 35 minutes of television than much of what we saw. I still believe that, like, what if it was the off night? Here's an episode of The Bear, season 3, the off night. Like, they're not open for service 7 nights a week. What is everybody doing on their off night? And you have an A story and a B story and a C story. You know, Tom, you've had the, I think, excellent suggestion that, like, let's send Richie out on a date.
Yes!
With the woman from the Ever. Maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe, what is Carmy doing? Is he skulking outside of Claire's apartment, or is he visiting?
Spraying a fence. He's spraying a fence.
Maybe he got invited over to Jimmy's house for dinner. Join us at dinner. You've been cooking for me these last 6 weeks, and I've been paying for it, of course, but now I'm going to, like, I have no doubt, given the depth of characters they've created, given the talent on the writing staff, obviously the acting, that if you had said, hey, episode 307 instead of freaking Legacy, which was a slog and full of incidental and uninteresting scenes of characters we don't care about, you had actually done sort of the off night. And what I also like is kind of would have captured the rhythm of the season. Like, I have total sympathy. And first of all, I truly admire the show. To the extent that I criticize it, it's because I love it. I just believe there were better decisions to be made. I believe you could have dealt with this problem, which was, oh shit, they need another season. We've already conceived of sort of how this show is going to end, and now we need to shoehorn it in. I just think there were other writing exercises that could have been performed that, when we had looked back on the 10 episodes, just would have made for a better album, so to speak, of 10 tracks. And I just think there were better tracks that were left off the album. And that's also that's my feeling. And it's sort of like, I just think there were ways to, I think, consolidate. And it's funny, like listening to you, Mayes, it's like, and you're totally right. This was what our friend John Hollinger calls a consolidation season. You know, a team has this rapid growth, right? They get to 53 wins, and then they sort of, okay, they bring back the same rosters, whether because of salary cap restraints or whatever. They don't really get to add or subtract much, but they're going to kind of grow together. And maybe that 53 wins becomes 54 or even 53 again, or maybe even 52 if there's an injury or two. And so that's sort of what this season was. But I just feel like there were missed opportunities. I just feel like there were ways that they could have accomplished much of what they accomplished in the storytelling this season, which was very experimental, admirably unconventional, and often not very interesting. And I think they could have had their cake and eat it too, because I think this is a talented staff and a talented cast and a great premise, and the character work's been so good, and the growth of the season too would have facilitated that kind of decision making.
You know what's interesting, Kevin? You're right. It's so illustrative of the fact that the 2 episodes that seem to resonate with a lot of people, and we talked about them a lot, Napkins and Ice Chips. The quote unquote bottle episodes explaining the backstory of Tina, and then kind of this sidebar with Natalie and Donna. Did they even appear in the finale? Either of them? No. Like the two kind of sidebar episodes, the characters that they really jumped in deep with, you couldn't even see them in the season finale. They didn't show up. And the same thing for Marcus. And I think that is, I don't know what exactly that says, but I do feel like this season is, plot-wise, extremely slow, like we talked about. The choices that they made, the opening scene of this episode with Carmi learning from Thomas Keller at French Laundry, it raised some really interesting choices, like you said, Kevin, because he is like Chef Tracy. He's delicate. He's willing to teach you. He's got a much softer touch to him in instruction.
Chef Terry.
Is it Terry? I keep saying Tracy.
Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
Chef Andrea Terry. We've learned her first name is Andrea.
Andrea. Yes. Maybe we should just call her Andrea like Carmi has to. So Chef Terry, I keep saying Tracy. Sorry for those who have been listening all season. I've been calling her Tracy. Chef Terry and Keller have kind of a similar disposition to them in the kitchen. But on Seth Meyers' show, Joel McHale said that his character, Chef David, is portraying Thomas Keller. I found that very interesting. He said on the show, he's like, I'm portraying Thomas Keller and he might poison me next time I see him if I meet him in person. But yeah, I was told that I had to be, that this is Thomas Keller, maybe a little meaner than Thomas Keller was. And I was surprised by that. I just thought that Chef David was just this asshole tyrant bully. And I hadn't realized that was actually drafted off of Thomas Keller. And Thomas Keller now might be very different than Thomas Keller 30 years ago. But the idea of him like whispering these things into Chef's ears, that's something that Joel McHale had said that was a Thomas Keller thing. But again, that might not necessarily mean that he was an asshole in the kitchen. But the toxic chef, we get that scene, which to me might have been the most, I got my emotions going, Kevin. My feelings, my emotions were starting to rev up at when Carmi started talking about just blurting out this kind of purge of emotion, describing that Chef David. And then he goes and confronts him, and Sydney turns to Luca and says, like, I don't think this is going to end well. I didn't think that scene was very satisfying either.
Yeah.
It ended the same sort of way that we've been feeling this whole episode, is that Carmi is just kind of stewing in his own emotions, and it still doesn't have the payoff that I was hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple of things. First, it's probably a good time. It's a good segue in terms of the Easter egg hunt. This episode was sort of huge, right? Because all the diners at this funeral meal were, many of them notable Chicago chefs, notable chefs in general.
Yes.
I want to particularly cite a few of them. Obviously, Thomas Keller starting the episode in the flashback. He is the chef showing Carmi how to take the wishbone out and ultimately roast the chicken for the family meal, which he has been assigned for his first night. But we have Christina Tosi, actually not, I don't think a Chicago chef, but the creator of Milk Bar, and also the creator of my favorite dessert, which is Milk Bar's crack pie. Mm-hmm. Or Milk Bar pie. There's Jeannie Kwan, who has Oriole, Grant Atchitz, who's Alinea, and actually worked, interestingly enough, at French Laundry. He's pictured in there. You also have Malcolm Livingston, who was the pastry chef at Noma and apparently is the inspiration for Marcus.
Yep.
And that was him telling the story of getting a haircut in service, right? So that's a great sort of meta inside above meta, right? You have also Anna Posey, who had a restaurant, who started a restaurant, Elsky, in Chicago, that is considered to be the closest thing in America to Noma itself, but also had a restaurant called The Publican, which I loved when I went to Chicago. I haven't eaten there in many years. I don't even know if it's still open. Also, Rosa Sanchez, who was the pastry chef at Noma, a job ultimately that is portrayed on the show, who also is known for bringing Mexican food to Copenhagen. And there were others. I think Kevin Bohm was in there. And Will Dara, who started a restaurant called WD50 down on Clinton Street in the Lower East Side, kind of considered the molecular gastronomy outpost for New York City. So it was a fascinating Easter egg. Again, and I kind of appreciate that it affirmed to me that this season has been really less about servicing the plot of the show and more about both a love letter to the chef world and also sort of a warning against and maybe trying to come to terms with a restaurant toxic kitchen culture. And, it reminded me the number of things the show was doing this season, which I appreciate. None of them happened to be entertaining me, but they were doing a lot of things in kind of a cool way. So that was that. And I forget your second point.
I was wondering what you guys thought of the confrontation.
I thought it was the best scene of the season.
Yeah.
It hit everything for me. I mean, if you guys will oblige me, I will take us back on a journey through Carmen's arc of this show. Okay.
Yes.
All the way back, season 2, My favorite scene of season 2, despite everything that happened in fishes, forks, all that stuff, is at the very beginning of the first episode when Richie's in the basement wondering about purpose, wearing his original Burf collector's edition shirt. And Carmy comes down to check on him and then eventually gets sucked into a conversation talking about purpose, which set the tone for season 2, right? Richie found his purpose. That was what his thing was. And Carmen said, just because you love something doesn't make it fun. He loves cooking. He loves being a chef. It is not fun for him. This is not joyous. He pushes himself to the limit, but it's not always an enjoyable thing. And so in season 2, he meets Claire, his first adult human relationship. I think it's safe to say he's never had to make room for another person in his life. So he's pretty inexperienced at it. And everyone, Sugar, Fack, Richie, Jimmy, everyone is encouraging him and so happy to see that it's finally happened. And we get that moment in Fishes when Bernthal and Eben, so Richie and Mikey, are like, dude, we saw Claire Bear. Like, she's hot now. Like, this is it. Like, let's go, Carmen. And so he's in this relationship and he can't balance. And so Sid is the only one who's like, not necessarily against it, but she's wondering why Carmen is having these conversations about the restaurant with someone that isn't her. Why is he talking through his thoughts with Claire? Why is Claire influencing decisions about what he's going to do? And the main takeaway is that he's distracted and absent from the restaurant because he doesn't know how to manage having a relationship and running a restaurant at the same time. And that's overemphasized with the walk-in door.
Yep.
And honestly, at the time, I really didn't like the way that season 2 ended, with him emptying his feelings and Claire catching it by accident and her walking away and them not talking about it. And now they've compounded that so much with season 3, them never talking. I don't know if that justifies the way that they executed that, but it's dramatic. And they've really made Carmen this insane, sadistic, irredeemable person, at least in his personal life, right? To do that to a person that he allegedly cared about and was in love with is inexcusable. And there's no real explanation. Like, he has to eat it. And so he's clearly processing that in the worst way possible. We talked about the scar. And so now he's got family trauma, which we know in depth. We've seen his mom and the way that his brother killed himself. And then he's got work trauma, which is David Fields from the pilot. Chef Winger, as I love the internet has called him because I was his community character. Joel McHale has been in his head from the beginning of the show, haunting him. You know, there's your fact term, haunting him.
No, don't do that.
Including in the season 2 finale, right? Where he basically breaks down because he thinks he sees Chef Winger there. Now, how is he compensating for the Claire situation? He's going 100% the other way.
He's turning into him.
I'm drowning myself in the bear, non-negotiables, all in, getting a star, has to be perfect, throwing plate after plate after plate after plate of beautiful, expensive food right in the trash. And he stops listening to anyone. He hasn't listened to a single person. He doesn't listen to Oliver Platt, telling him that the Transylvanian goat butter is too expensive. He doesn't listen to Sydney ever at all. His alleged partner, who he, in the end of season 1, one of the first things he does is they have that great back and forth about their vision for the restaurant they're going to build with all the money, family style, booths, stuff like that. He's toned everything out. He's a huge prick. And so in the first episode of this season, like you guys were talking about, we get his evolution. Thomas Keller, Andrea Terry, so French Laundry ever, Noma with Renee Redzepi. Then he goes home for the holidays for the Fishes episode. That's when Cousin Michelle's like, yo, you should come to New York. Then Daniel Boulud. And then finally, CDC at Empire, where he retained the Michelin stars for David Fields. And so while we see him incorporate the food elements of his journey in the dishes that he's been making for the bear now, with the peas, for example, would be the strongest one. The only chef that has had any effect on him is Joel McHale. there's that scene in the finale where all the chefs are talking about their influences and how working for a bad chef teaches them what type of chef they want to be. What's Carmen doing? He's not listening. He's not talking. He's staring at Chef David Fields, and he's thinking, that's all I care about is this guy. So while this is frustrating to watch, I think it is really effective in a vividly rendered portrait, and we understand Carmy. So then the scene where he confronts him. You guys have been talking about Mad Men all year. This is the Mad Men meme. I don't think about you at all.
Oh, yeah.
I got your name wrong, Bergazzo.
That was the first thing I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, stole that line.
So while he spent the entire show thinking about this guy, Fields is like, all right, say what you got to say, whatever. You're welcome. You were an okay chef when you started with me, and you left an excellent chef, so you're welcome. And he's right, because clearly Carmen has incorporated this so fundamentally into his identity that he can't distinguish the toxicity of the environment from the habits it's built. And one of my favorite things is the scissors on the tape thing he lifted directly from Chef David Fields. You see that, him lean over his shoulder and cut the tape. Mm-hmm. And so when he first describes David to Luca and Sid, he calls him a fuckface, all those insults, but then he also says, accomplishes more by 10 a.m. than most people do in a lifetime.
Yeah, this is what Chef Ajapong was talking about last week, is why Whiplash is such an inspirational film for a lot of people, and why it holds a special place in people who try and attempt to achieve excellence in their field. Is it raises the question of, can you be excellent at something while having enough space in your life to have fulfilling personal or romantic relationships or familial relationships? And this is kind of what he's getting at, right? Fields is getting at is like, yeah, you fucking hated me and we hated each other, but guess what? It made you into a Michelin star-esque chef. And that's it. That's a lot of the overarching theme of this show, is whether the pursuit of excellence, you can have all these other things in your life. And that's what Carmy's really struggling with.
And so I'm fascinated to see what happens with that.
Listener, listen up. This is important, okay? I'm going to try to save you some money here. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. You may think like, oh, that's bad. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month. You heard that correctly. $15 per month. Ditch overpriced wireless and the jaw-dropping monthly bills. And of course, there are all these hidden fees and stuff, but at Mint Mobile, plans start at $15 per month. All the plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text. You're not doing like weekend and nighttime minutes or anything like that. And it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone. Don't have to get a new phone. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. I switched months ago. People have asked, did you actually switch? Yes, I actually switched months ago, and I don't know what to do with all this extra money. I've cheated the system here. I've rigged something. This is an Ocean's 11 situation where I'm stealing wireless from Mint. That's how good a deal it is. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/dings. That's DINGS. That's mintmobile.com/dings. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hello, listener. It's Producer Mayes here to talk to you about Quince and their cookware. Cooler nights mean cozy meals at home, and Quince's cookware has made fall cooking so much more enjoyable. Their pieces deliver the quality and performance of luxury brands, but at a price that makes sense. And they look gorgeous on the stovetop, too. No matter what item you need to complete your kitchen, Quince has you covered. With 5-ply stainless steel pots and pans, nonstick skillets, chef-quality knives, and even ceramic bakeware, which is perfect for cozy casseroles or Sunday roasts. And when you look at these prices, you might think, how is Quince doing this? How do they deliver high-quality items similar to high-end brands that are half the price? Well, let me tell you, they partner directly with ethical top-tier factories to cut out the middlemen and pass the savings on to you. And it's not just cookware. I got myself some bath sheets. That's right. When you're a tall man, you have to use bath sheets, not bath towels from Quince. It's like drying off with a cloud. It's incredible. Upgrade your kitchen for cozy fall meals with premium cookware from Quince. Go to quince.com/dings for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dings, DINGS, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dings. Hello, listener. It's producer Mayes here to talk to you about Kindred. Now, close your eyes like Owen Wilson during a job interview and imagine a way to travel that feels personal, comfortable, and connected without the price tags and the sterile feelings of hotels or short-term rentals. Now open your eyes and stop using your imagination because Kindred has made it very real. That's exactly what they do. Kindred is a members-only home swapping network. It's not a hotel. It's not a short-term rental. It's a smarter way to travel where each stay feels like home. Here's how it works. With Kindred, your home is your ticket. You earn credits by hosting fellow Kindred members, and then you use those credits to stay in over 220,000 homes in more than 100 cities worldwide. There are no hotel costs or rental fees, just the credits that you've earned. Every stay comes with white glove service, 24/7 trip support, and $100,000 in host protection. Make it easier for you to travel and enjoy yourself and not worry about details. I've used Kindred and I found an amazing home for a weekend getaway in an idyllic location with amazing views and great ambiance. It had everything I needed. And the best part was, it cost me $0. So apply now at livekindred.com and use code DINGS to join for free. Plus, you'll earn 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. That's right, that's 5 whole nights for free at livekindred, KINDRED.com, code DINGS, DINGS, livekindred.com, code DINGS.
The most interesting thing about that scene is actually Fields tells him the worst thing that Carmy can hear, which is everything you like about your craft, everything you're good at, you got from me, right? And I think that was, on the surface, what Chef David Fields is telling him is you're great, right? You know, for a guy who is his haunt, for a guy who is the bane of his existence. I mean, how much time do you have to tell me the level of fuckery and assholery that you engaged with? Because I could do it for 30 minutes. For all of that, what would essentially, Fields won't even give him the satisfaction of replicating his insults from the kitchen, right? He doesn't say, oh, I've been to your restaurant and it sucks, right? No, he doesn't say that at all. The guy who is his mortal enemy is basically telling him, you're awesome.
You're welcome.
I think in a lesser show, that confrontation is played much more pat. You might play it for an insult and, didn't do anything for me. Yeah, this stuck, that stuck. You didn't do this. Your saucing was this. No, actually, Fields gives him the worst insult, which is, you're awesome. Subtext being, you're awesome because of me, right? I made you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was clever. And I did, the emotional tenor of the scene, I'm kind of torn a little bit. I think mental health is a major issue. I spent a lot of time reporting on it in the context of the NBA. And look, those worlds are very similar. They're talent driven. They're superstars. There's a level of just mental torment that's almost priced into the craft. It's emotional. It's performance based. That said, our 2 main characters are both melting down simultaneously. And while there's a certain symmetry to that, you know what else I like? I like agency. I like my characters to have agency. And I do think it was an interesting choice, just both the panic attack at the end and sort of really what is functionally a panic attack in the corridor of the restaurant, right? I mean, it's Carmy basically saying, I have night sweats, I have this, I have that, I have that, I have that.
Ulcers.
And while I have great empathy for that, I'm ready to watch these characters. And by the way, that agency can take a bunch of different forms. I'm not saying they need to have good things happen to them. I just think they need to act. I thought it would have been much more interesting had, prior to the funeral dinner, maybe whether it's in the episode 9 or somehow the beginning of episode 10, we see that Sydney tells Shapiro, yeah, I'm coming. Well, have you told Carmy yet? No, I can't. So just Imagine an extra layer of tension over this episode, which had some wonderful anecdotes, and I enjoyed the banter between the chefs. Mm-hmm. It was great fan service, all of that. But you would have had a really interesting element. I mean, Carmy has been generous enough to invite Sydney effectively as his date to this, great event, right? You're Sydney. You're an up-and-coming chef. Imagine sitting at that table with those people, right? You got invited to the few. This is a real event in Sydney's life, right?
Your Cooper flag going to Team USA.
Exactly, right? And I just think that, again, a small decision that could have been made to provide a little more tension is, imagine we know, and Sydney knows, but Carmy does not know. And it could have even slipped at the dinner. Oh, so we hear is Sydney, you've been traded, or wait, you gotta do some, and Carmy, so imagine the tension of that.
I hear you, man.
Of Carmy realizing in the finale, this is what a finale is for, right? It's for a dramatic showdown between our two main characters, both of whom, assholery or not, that we have a certain, empathy for. Imagine that strain, that while this funeral dinner is going on, the subcurrent is Carmy has just found out unintentionally. It's on the night that he is bringing Sydney, and she's all dolled up and she cleans up nice, and that Carmy, doesn't know that she's already accepted an offer to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback, and it's very easy to do that. I just don't think that compromises and look, maybe it would have compromised season 4. Maybe they have the setup already written. That's a very good explanation. But I just feel like there were other things that could have been done rather than, okay, we have our two main characters and they're just they're lathering in their complete kind of mental breakdown. I'm kind of ready for some agency. And by the way, it can be self-destructive agency, but there needs to be some agency. Yeah. And I'm torn about this critique for another reason. Is my partner and I spend a lot of time complaining about what I call the cult of propulsion in present day television, right? Propulsive. Everything, the bomb's got to go off on page 6. Everything's got to move. And this is a show that has clearly gone the other way. And so in many ways, I admire it. I just think that there's sort of overcorrections in both directions right now in television. And this is a show that admirably has sort of resisted the cult of propulsion. But in doing so, I think has, overcorrected a little bit. But I just, again, decision upon decision of, no, we're not going to have any drama. We're not going to have any of that here. Like, we're just not. And that's sort of my beef.
I was looking at that episode, Kevin, and thinking about the scene between Luca and Sydney and being like, is there a spark there? Is there a romantic? Is there anything there? Because maybe I'm just...
Does it matter?
It doesn't.
I'm desperate for something like that.
Yeah.
I'm desperate for something to drive the Sydney character because, Kevin, I have a soft spot for Richie. You have a soft spot for Sydney. I want both of them to have some sort of propulsion on that level. And I guess I was looking at Luca and being like, I want something there, something to kind of drive her forward, because this whole stuck panic attack, I'm not going to talk to anyone and I'm stuck in this world. It just seems very repetitive and redundant. And so when she has the panic attack at the end there, it's almost like kind of a nod that there's generational trauma and you become your mentor or your boss. And it seems like, yeah, maybe Carmy is turning into David Fields, but what if Sydney's turning into the worst parts of Carmy, where she just closes off, can't talk to anyone, can't express her feelings in ways. And that's kind of those feelings I had, is like, why are we having the confrontation between David Fields and Carmy? I want the conversation between Carmy and Sydney. Yeah. I wanted that in this finale. We didn't get that. And there's a theory going around that the phone calls from Cicero and Computer are not about the review. They're about, they found out that Sydney's leaving. And that they're calling and being like, yo, what the fuck are we going to do about Sydney leaving? And that is really interesting to me, because maybe I'm just so thirsty for that sort of plot development that I kind of want those phone calls from Cicero and Computer to be like, the restaurant's fucked. You just lost your top chef, no pun intended. And what are we going to do? And it has actually nothing to do with the review.
Okay. Couple things. I do think the Sydney coaching tree analogy is interesting. Also, it's a no-brainer. On paper, going with the other chef is a better gig.
Yes.
It's more money. She'd be in charge. Why she's earned the credibility for that off of essentially him eating one dish that she had. Okay, whatever. I'll chalk that up to bare magical realism of, we just believe in you. But she should go with Shapiro. I don't think she's going to. If season 4 is the last season, I don't think we have enough time to have major setbacks. I don't think the review is bad. I don't think Sydney leaves. I do think we will get the scene where they talk about it. I think they have to because they've been avoiding it like the plague all season long.
Yeah.
In the scene where they're going over the menu and he steamrolls her every single time, say something. Speak your mind. Open up. You know, they clearly made a choice to not do that. I get that. But I don't see this as a shipping show. I mean, they gave us the Claire plotline where we had some romance, and that was kind of surprising because there's been almost no romance. Like, we get Tina and her husband, and we don't really have a whole lot of other examples of partnership and love and relationships.
It's Richie and his ex-wife.
His ex-wife at the Fish's dinner, Gillian Jacobs. Yeah, that's a tender moment. I do think we're setting up for an Avengers style. Let's bring in reinforcements to the bear. Let's bring in Jessica. Let's bring in Chef Luca. He's in Chicago for a couple months with his sister for some reason. I do see them, people who have essentially become cast members on the fringes of this show, joining the bear and propelling it into this sort of more polished environment. If you add Luca to that team, come on.
Well, they also said that is in the room in the Ever kitchen where they're like, what are you guys going to do next? And they're like, I don't know. Haven't thought about it. So it kind of leaves open that loose end.
Yeah, they're dangling that. So I don't see that as, sure, it'd be great if Richie and Jessica hit it off and have a date. That's not nearly as important to me as let's build this team up. Because one of the funniest things is that we had those chefs that like got hired at the end of season 2. And there's the one that's doing meth that was on SNL. And then there's this endless rotation of nameless, faceless servers. But essentially the bear has been operating with 5 people working. So it'd be nice to have a more fleshed out crew working there. And I think that, you know, with the way that they've brought in Will Poulter for a lot of time in season 3, I think that's very possible.
Like you, Mayes, I'm very optimistic for season 4. I really am. I just think, again, there's enough talent and there's enough depth here that I've come to terms with the idea that the extra order or the order for the extra season complicated things, and they made some odd decisions that didn't produce a great season of television, and that's okay. At least it was, you know, if you're going to fail spectacularly, and not so much that it was a spectacular failure, but it was, you know, they did a lot of interesting things this season. They made interesting decisions that did not pan out as a show. And I've sort of now kind of come to terms with that. And I don't think it presages anything other than, for me, it is going to be a very good 4th season. They clearly have stories they want to tell. I love the idea. As you say, I mean, to your point, though, I think we could have had that, right? We could have had that. We could have spent more time in actually, again, I think the operation of the bear in months 1 through 5, which is what the show has been, or 1 through 4, I don't know how long this season has been temporally, but I just think operationally it would have been 10 episodes of great television, as CJ said a few weeks ago when he paid us a visit, right? Like, hey, why haven't we seen the front of the house, to your point? Oh, it's been run by 5 people. That's our impression. I think that's right. Are there people up front? Was there a great front of the house episode? Hey, Richie kind of in the role of Carmy is sort of going the work. You know, again, God, you want some great television? Again, the worst night in the front of the house where Richie is just, for all the great lessons, and he came of age at the fork, and he found religion. What happens when the rubber hits the road? Did he? I don't know. You have a soft spot for Richie, Tom Haberstroh?
Mm-hmm. Give me that episode.
Yeah, like, look, I enjoy, look, I've come to really appreciate the character, and I like the scene on the park bench with his wife. I like that they're setting this up like your daughter worries about you. These are all wonderful themes. I hate hitting the dead horse here, but I just think there were opportunities that you could have both stalled for time insofar as you're not going to maim your 4th season, and at the same time explored character, capture that freneticism that I don't think we've had enough of this season, except in these sort of weird montages where he's throwing away food, or, you know, he's kind of in that sort of dream state of, you know, hands, you know, it's like, I just think there was, like, again, one of the show's great, I think, stylistic in attributes the first season and 2 was its naturalism, right? That it just felt almost I mean, those early episodes of the show, you felt just the claustrophobia of the kitchen and the action, the frenetic, nervous energy, and we just didn't get a lot of that. And there's nothing against the legacy conversation, but it's just sort of like, okay, I mean, that's a choice. TV is choices. It's choices. These are choices that these storytellers made, and they did provide for some interesting moments. But I think at the end of the day, again, it's my old theme here.
Yeah, they consolidated all of that into episode 3, Doors. They did it in one episode.
Yeah.
And that could have been 2 episodes. That could have been 3 episodes. And then in terms of the Richie thing, there was a great moment. I want to say episode 9, where he struggles through the pregame speech.
Yeah.
And you can see that he's breaking down, that the enthusiasm is gone, but we didn't earn it.
Why?
To get there. We get one scene.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, Mayes, right? I like that. It was like, you know what I would have really enjoyed? The 3 scenes that precipitated that loss of confidence. He's lost his confidence. Richie has lost his confidence. He came in from Forks. I know how this is fucking done. I'm going to wear my black shirt. It's like,
suited up.
I love it. Forks is our favorite episode for a reason, right? Rarely have in a wonderfully compressed unit has a character evolved. Okay, he's lost his confidence. I liked that scene too. What didn't work about that scene was, as you said, it was unearned. What we needed were the three scenes planted. By the way, it didn't all have to be that episode. They could have planned it in the previous week. But no, the previous week we were in a delivery room. Okay, that's a decision. Tom, you love that episode. I appreciated that episode. That's a cost. There's opportunity cost in television.
Yes.
When you spend time talking about the 14th most interesting characters, PED history as a minor league or whatever the fuck.
I'm not going to let you guys do that to sweeps. I love sweeps.
You love sweeps, but Mayes, but here's what I would say. You love sweeps, but what I hear you say is the more important character had an unearned moment that could have been earned with a 1.5-page scene that instead was allocated over here. Shot selection is key in television, shot selection.
I loved the episode as a standalone in the same way that you can win all your minor deals but lose in the aggregate. I thought that Ice Chips episode was excellent in my book. I also think it was poorly placed and poorly timed, and we needed, in any other season, I feel like we needed more plot. That it just seemed superfluous in a way that I felt like we need more of Richie and Sydney, for God's sakes. Give me more Sydney or something with Sydney. And we talked a little bit about this last week. The idea that like this might be season 2 of The Wire.
Which is a great season.
I was going to get there. It is, in my opinion, the first watch, I was like, what the fuck? Why are we on the docks? I don't care about the unions. Like, why does this matter? Why do the Zabakas matter?
Context.
We needed some foundation context, and it was necessary in the overall series of the show. And it explained a lot. And the second time you watch season 2, you appreciate it a whole lot more, in my opinion.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Unlock over $3,500 in business and travel value annually with statement credits on select purchases from brands like Dell, Hilton, and Adobe, and other benefits. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Based on total potential value of statement credits on select purchases and other benefits, enrollments required, monthly and other limits and terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
I did some number crunching on just the IMDb ratings, and this season was 8.17 average rated by the audience. So IMDb ratings, 8.17. That is almost exactly the same as season 1 of The Bear, 8.21. Season 2 was significantly higher at 8.7. So season 2, I think we can all agree, was the crown jewel of this show, is that it had the best highs and not that many lows. I feel like this season had a bunch of lows and not as many highs as I would have liked. I think the first episode, I think we enjoyed napkins and ice chips in a certain way, but the overall season felt like it was the third tier of the 3 seasons. But there's this other thing that's going on that I think should talk about a little bit what seems to be the most reviewed, that resonated or engaged the audience the most in this season, season 3, have nothing to do with the kitchen. It's napkins, ice chips, and tomorrow. The first episode, season finale, tomorrow. Napkins, which is Tina, and then ice chips, which is Natalie and Donna. Those not only were the highest rated, but also the most reviewed. If you go back in the series history and look at the most reviewed episodes, a lot of them it's forks and fishes and honeydew. And I'm wondering what that says, Kevin. I'm wondering what you feel like that says about this show and maybe about online culture, or I guess television culture, or maybe this is nothing at all. This is a methodology question and not really representative of the overall quality of the show. This is just a perspective on just internet rating culture, or how we view shows based on just IMDb ratings. So what do you think about the fact that on this series, ice chips, napkins, and tomorrow were not just the people's favorite, but also the most engaging of the episodes?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a couple of things. I mean, one is, and I say this is somebody for whom napkins was probably my second favorite episode of the season, right? Internet fan sites, rating sites, over-index for junkies, right? Like, by definition, if you are among the many things you can do to spend time online, if you're saying, I'm going to go today to IMDb and process my ratings for my favorite Bear episodes, theory of mind, right? Who is that person? And I think that person isn't probably a TV junkie. You're talking about a deep fan subculture. And I think that's not to say that, because again, I agree largely with the ratings. The ratings they have napkins number 1 for the season, the IMDb folks, and Doors number 2, and it looks like the opening number 3. But I do think I think those cultures and those sites and those voting processes over-index for junkies, for connoisseurs, both real and imagined and self-conceived connoisseurs, of which we are all that. I mean, you and I have decided that it is an incredibly good use of our time to spend, 10 or 11 hours talking about the Bear for a public audience, right? So you and I are part of this subculture. So I just want to make sure, for the record, I'm not demeaning anybody who goes to IMDb's. I have a freaking podcast that talks about this show, right? So my proper disclaimer here. But I do think that that's kind of what it says. I also think that I do also, like you, I know Tom, because we've been at this for a long time in similar realms, but we both also believe in the wisdom of the crowds in some respects, right? And but I think that it's interesting that the bottle episodes generate the most approbation. I also think the other thing that I don't want to read too much into in this respect is the restaurant-based episodes were terrible relative to the other ones, right? They weren't. They just weren't. They were bad episodes. And, I have no doubt that had those episodes been better, the disparity between a bottle episode that takes place 5 years in the past that shows Tina's evolution and really her journey from getting fired from her job unceremoniously to, crying in the dining room of the Bear one day, or of Beef, might have there been a lesser disparity. So those other episodes just weren't very good. And that might just be an expression of the wisdom of the crowds. But I do think those sites tend to, I think they veer junky. You have to be of a certain frame of mind to say, I'm going to go to IMDb.
You have to burn some calories to go vote on those things.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, that's good, because I think actually, in some ways, I would say that I would never say that IMDb ratings are gospel, but I do want to know what connoisseur. Like, you are passionate about the Bear, and if I'd fallen asleep in 2017 and woken up and you said, hey, Kevin, there's a great workplace dramedy that takes place in a Chicago restaurant, and the first thing I would say is, oh, you love the show? Yeah. What are your favorite episodes? That's a natural question. So I think it has a utility, but I also do think it over-indexes for the junkies.
I think they stand apart pretty distinctly in terms of style.
Yeah.
And I think when you have an episode that focuses wholly on one character, like Honeydew with Marcus at Noma,
an episode I love,
it gives so much more room to breathe for that one character, that one actor to work. So that's the easy answer, is each of those is a short film about a character, whereas most of the episodes of the show are like a workplace dramedy where people are coming in and out and there's kind of a chaotic action. I think it's really interesting to look at the first season in terms of this IMDb rating, where it's like, oh, you know, whatever. Like, okay, yeah, the show's okay. 7, review the episode that was one take and that the internet went crazy for, and that the filmmaking nerds were like, bah, this is television. This is how you make The Bear. And so it's like, boom.
It's a flex. Yeah.
After that, I think everything changed for that show. Was once everybody got to that 7th episode, you started talking about it. So it's pretty down the line. Like, the episodes that were different are higher rated. Does that mean that the episodes that were in the restaurant were not well made or didn't have good acting or anything like that? No, it's just they're not special.
Yeah, I think, Kevin, you're right. They were terrible relative to the overall show. I think if we compare the worst episodes of The Bear, they're still hitting 300.
And to Mays' point, 7 and 8 are classic. We're in the soup of the restaurant. That massive leap. Those weren't bottle episodes. In fact, they were representative of the kind of, hey, to the extent that we think that the workplace-based ones have been subpar, those were the good versions of the subpar episodes we're talking about for season 3, right?
And the finale of season 2 was a throwback to episode 7 of season 1 because there was a big tracking shot in that one too. We're going in and out of the kitchen, into the dining room, etc.
Do you think they can still tell that story in season 4 or in this season 3 is like what it's like to be 8:15 on a Saturday night? I think there was room, like we talked about, if we do front of house, if we look at Richie and what it's like to be backed up in Top Chef, whenever the front of house is backed up and Padma and Tom are looking around like, wow, there's a lot of people waiting on their drinks right now. That episode we didn't get in season 3, but I do wonder if that's already been well-trodden ground on the series, is they've already been in the kitchen and told that story. Do we need to tell that story again? And they decided not to in season 3.
Again, at the risk of sounding pedantic, I don't think that's the story. The kitchen is a vehicle for the characters. I think frenetic energy in the kitchen is not the episode. It's frenetic energy in the kitchen that conveys that there is tension between these two characters, or that this character is all of a sudden emerging and stepping up, right? It's not, they portray, and you're right, there's like, you could make an argument that, we've seen all that, though. Item 2 and the thing's spitting out tickets, and that's not the story. The story is, how is Carmi dealing with that? He's grown up, or he's not.
Poorly.
Right, exactly. But I think you use it. That is merely the vehicle to tell this is the night that Sydney just says you're a piece of shit, whatever it is, right? Like, I think, to your point, the story about the front of the house is not just to show that fantasy episode that we hope to see, or the CJ wanted to see, that you and I, we all think is a good idea. It's not about, you get to see, it's a wonderful look at how the front of the house works, and but we kind of always saw that in some ways with in Forks, right? The note passing, behind the back. But I think it's more just like, okay, how's Richie doing? That's the episode. The issue is, how's Richie doing? He's losing confidence. Maze, you mentioned that scene, right? Well, why? We're going to tell you why. Watch these situations that occur over this 3-hour dinner service. And that to me is sort of like, it's not so much, they've told that story. It's that, hey, all I know is you're telling me that Sydney's having real apprehensions about working with Carmi. And the truth is, if you compile all the scenes in season 2 that have demonstrated that, they all kind of feel the same. Let's do cavatelli. No, let's do ravioli. Apricot cherry. All right, how about something a little more interesting than that, right? I would like to see the way that the frustration manifests itself in the moment.
What if Sydney remakes the menu?
Exactly.
While Carmi's gone, and she's like, fuck you.
Exactly.
You've done it 8 times in a row. I'm going to do it once. Let's see how the night goes.
Here's an episode. Carmi has an emergency. Do I see Makanai gets in a car wreck, or he's the one that Natalie calls and he actually picks up and he goes to the emergency room or with her because she's delivering a baby. It is left to Sydney to do the entire dinner service. And guess what Sydney decides? On the fly, she's going to change the menu. Mm-hmm. And guess what? It's the hit. It's the night that the paper comes and reviews it. And everyone's saying, oh my God, that was our best dinner service ever. Carmi gets back and realizes, oh fuck. Call me crazy. Situational drama is kind of interesting in a show, despite the allergy of it that this show has to it this season, which also produced some interesting television. But what are you here for?
Yeah.
What are you here for?
I felt like this was a great penultimate episode.
Yeah.
I feel like this was setting up for a great finale.
It's a great penultimate season to set up the action.
Right.
Yes.
Of season 4.
To be continued, which I agree was a total troll.
Yeah.
Total troll. What is being continued?
The show is being continued? Yeah, we know that.
I think they did it every season, though.
Did they?
Oh, did they? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, what?
Season 1 ends with them putting up the sign, The Bear coming soon, and then to be continued.
But we know it's to be continued. It's a series show. Okay.
Of course.
All right. I want to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on the little tease of the review, the words that they decide to show? On the internet, there's someone who plugged the words, all of the words, into ChatGPT and then asked ChatGPT, using these words and the show, write the review from the Chicago Tribune. And it reads like very plausibly that it's a positive review.
Oh, yeah.
But it says, hey, it was at times inconsistent, but it hit really big highs and it was overall a positive review. However, I'm guessing Sydney's name is not in the review. And that's where I think the tension continues to build, is that Sydney's not feeling loved or deserving the credit and being able to have kind of the agency over the menu that she was hoping for and the authority over the restaurant that she was hoping for, and what Adam Shapiro is presumably giving her and offering her. What did you think? What did you guys think? The review positive? What did you think about that choice of showing us a little bit of tease of the words without actually giving us the review?
Well, I think the whole season has been trying to make you think that it's going to be bad. And especially with the calls and the texts from Cicero and Computer, it's like, well, this is it. They'd only be blowing you up if it was awful and it's time to shut it down. But I think it's going to be good. And I think one of the reasons that they intentionally kept us out of the dining room this year is to put us more in Carmen's head. If we go in the dining room and people are going crazy for it, there's not as much suspense about whether this review is going to be bad. If they're giving us more indication that it's being well received, it takes the air out of the balloon in that sense. Did we need it? Not necessarily. I think the review is going to be good, but I also think that that's not going to do anything for Carmen because it's his own standard. He doesn't really care. Like, a good review from the Chicago Tribune is not going to make him relax. It's going to have to be something else. Even if he got 3 Michelin stars, I don't think he would necessarily be satisfied. So his own bottomless pit of perfectionism is not going to be quaffed by somebody saying, good job.
Kevin, what do you think motherfucker means? Like, when he says motherfucker, do you think that's just how inconvenient he's going to a party and now the review is in? Or what do you think that motherfucker line is attributed to?
It could be the way that creatives, and for that matter, professional athletes, as you know, will read a review that's 90% positive and zero in on the one slight in the piece. And it's clear that the review had qualifications, right? That there was sloppy, this, that, and the other. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, I suspect what the review is this is a stroke of genius. The risk taking is admirable. There are a few misses, blah, 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 blah. I mean, again, I'm having trouble sort of, and Mayes brings up a really good point, right? One of the things I'm having trouble with is just buying into both the import of the review in 2024. It's important, but not vital. Though, again, they've done a nice job of sort of setting it up where, hey, the financier thinks it's vital, so it's vital, right? I mean, at the end of the day, whether it matters to foot traffic, Jimmy seems to think it is because he's an old guy and probably reads the newspaper still and gets it delivered to his home. So all that matters is the financier does. But two, to Mays' point, right, like, to what extent does it fuel him? Does it make him, like, so what? I mean, let's think of the eventualities and what we've known. And because they've spent so much time inside his head, right? We know that head. Let's say the review is great. How does it change Carmi? Does it just mean that the restaurant has does he have more competence? To the extent that it's critical, does it really change anything, right? And that's sort of that's my other issue with the review as the big plot device, is that I agree with Mays that I don't know how it informs behavior. I don't know how it informs psyche. I know how it informs Jimmy. And in that respect, okay, the financier seems to think it's important. And in fact, if anything, I would say, okay, it's useful as a device to create conflict, where if Jimmy uses it as a pretext to get his money out, right? Because now he's shorted the market at a bad time. Okay, well, now there's conflict between, now Carmi's got to make the sale, like, fuck you. The review means nothing. And by the way, why are you? So I don't know. I mean, again, I'm very optimistic for season 4. It's not because I think this is an interesting cliffhanger, or I think the review provides much in the way of forward motion.
They thought it was. they made a lot of choices to make the review.
Yeah, and I'm a little incredulous. I'm actually frankly glad to get to season 4 where the review will be a reality, and now we can just move on.
Yeah,
right. Like this, I mean, call me crazy. I have this very, very intense interest in whether this restaurant is good, whether it's going to save our characters spiritually, psychically, professionally, and otherwise. And I would like to see the show spend a little time on the central freaking theme of the show, right? Like the central question of the show, which is this restaurant any good? Will it succeed or fail? What does that mean to the characters? I kind of do our favorite, Pat Riley. I'm ready. I'm excited that this possibly presages the idea that the main thing in season 4 will become once again the main thing.
I wonder how they merge the two storylines, like Adam Shapiro's restaurant and the bear, and whether they merge even. What if Carmy has like some sort of heart condition and he has to step away from the kitchen for a couple months, in the same way that Tony Soprano's in the hospital and has this dreamlike state, and we're going to take the mafia boss out of the picture and see what happens. In the same way that, like, does Adam come in and be like, all right, he wouldn't come and join the bear. But I'm curious to see what happens in season 4 and how they kind of weave those storylines together. Because I agree with you. What drove home to me that she's not I don't think she takes the job, even though she should. When Luca tells her, hey, I spent my whole life with this person and there's something good about that. That's something valuable that I've shared my life with my sister and I'm coming to go see her. Did you have that relationship? She's like, no, I didn't have any siblings. I was an only child. Well, did you have anyone like that? My dad. Well, besides your dad. No, I actually, and you know what? I'm fine. I'm okay with that. But then when she's in the kitchen with Chef Terry and she starts getting these visions of like the bear and all the people and the characters and work, I think she's starting to think like, that's my family. Like Carmy and the Fact brothers and Marcus, these are my family that I've gone through hell and high water with. I wonder if that's kind of like, that's the tell that Sydney is like, I'm listening to Lucas say, I need those people in my life. And if I go to Chef Adam Shapiro's restaurant, I'm not going to have anyone that I've really gone into the trenches with. And I don't have that person in my life. And that's what the bear gives me. So my prediction, I think Sydney stays. The bear review is positive. Cicero tells them that they're not going to have any money, but someone's going to come in with money. I don't think it's Chef Terry. I think she's gone. I think she's, riding to the sunset. But I do think that the bear is going to have this financial tension in the first few episodes of season 4. It resolves itself. And maybe by the end of season 4, you get Sydney being like, you know what? I'm ready to go open up my own restaurant. And we kind of see that blossoming or that butterfly for Sydney's character. But I'm with you, Kevin. I would love a romantic interest or some sort of depth to her in a way that we really, really did not get this season. And the same thing with Richie. I am rooting Team Jess. Let's go. Team Jess and Richie. We had a little bit of that in this episode, and I was so excited for it. I think that's where I want to see in season 4. Any thoughts from you guys on, wrapping a bow on season 3 of The Bear?
I want to talk about the Emmys for a second. You guys have talked at length about the comedy drama thing. I think that's very played out. It's obviously not a comedy, but it's 30 minutes long, whatever. But I think the funnier thing and more interesting thing is the calendar, because last year they won 10 out of 13 awards. It was the breakout. Everybody went crazy for The Bear. But that was for season 1. That wasn't for season 2, because the Emmy calendar starts in June and The Bear comes out in June. So we're about to have another Emmys where they dominate. And it's going to be coming off this season that not everybody was crazy about. And so it's this weird thing where season 2 100% propelled them to the Emmy wins last year, because that's what everybody had just seen. So next year, when season 3 is up for the awards, will season 4 have changed the perspective? Will they retain their Michelin star rating going through all 4 seasons of The Bear? I think it's really funny, but it's just crazy to me how archaic and rigid the Emmys are. Hack season 3, which had its finale May 30th, 2024, will be going up against The Bear season 2, which aired June 22nd, 2023. Fix it. Figure it out.
That's why you're seeing all these shows get released Memorial Day weekend now.
Oh yeah, it's the crunch.
So they can make the deadline. It's not, because you can have something to watch on a beautiful spring weekend. It's, do you want to get to the Emmys? I'm looking forward to the 4th season of the show. I'm a huge fan. I kvetch because I love. And, it's such a great medium. I mean, in general, I am of the belief that we might be a few years off our peak. I do think that sort of Breaking Bad, Mad Men, 2000 teens, Homeland, Americans, that sort of general period between sort of called the Obama administration period, I think was peak TV. And we run into some sort of, the algorithm is sort of people trying to figure it out. And clearly there's some financial and structural challenges in the industry that are maybe making people more risk averse or whatever decisions they're making, right? But for all of my misgivings, and boy, I have enumerated them ad nauseum, I appreciate that, again, when things don't work, they don't work because of a certain caution, or they don't work because the show's afraid to take risks, or they don't work because, they're taking the easy way out or they're pandering. None of that is true. Like, it's a staff that clearly has fallen in love with their characters in the best ways possible. And at times have sort of indulged that love. I do think there is something to the fact that a show that is knighted with the distinction of prestige does kind of buy in and get high off its own supply. Like, I do think that's what's going on as well. That is totally understandable because it happens and everyone thinks they're immune to that, but they're not. And what is the point of doing the work to obtain prestige and not getting to use the prestige to do whatever the hell you want? I'm that way. Y'all are that way. Like, people are that way. Mm-hmm. That said, it doesn't always translate into, again, the best kind of decision making. And I think that went on too. But nevertheless, I'm with both of you guys in the sense that I don't think season 3 has, quote, set up success in season 4. I think success in season 4 was already preordained for the same reasons we've been talking, which is it's clear that the last season of this show was predicated on the genius of season 2. And the fact that season 3 was this sort of interlude doesn't really change that. So I don't think season 3 did much to, quote, set up anything. Without that, I think season 4 is going to be incredibly successful. I think it's going to be incredibly satisfying because, again, I do think it'll be an outgrowth of all the stuff we saw set up at the end of season 2, really.
Kevin, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you your favorite needle drop from this episode. Any notes about the music choices from the season finale? It
was fun to hear the Sundays again. That was a band I listened to in college. I love hearing Tangerine Dream anytime. I think Laid by James was an apt selection for the party.
Yeah.
For the sort of postmortem. All the while, there's a certain freneticism to that song that also accentuated and captured Sydney's panic attack. So that's Kale.
There's little talking heads in there too.
But hold on, number 1 is one of my top 10 favorite songs, which is Within Your Reach by The Replacements, right? So that was by far, because Hootenanny is a great album. And actually, one of the things I loved about it is the only time I've seen The Replacements live was in Chicago in 1991.
Hey.
And Paul Westerberg was in a particularly pissy mood. It was in his real mope bratty phase where they released All Shook Down, which was regarded, I think, by a lot of purists as a more commercial turn. And therefore, because this is 1991, and Gen X, terribly artistically judgmental people we are. They kind of tried to go mainstream, and he was still kind of pissy about it, but it was a great show nonetheless. But Within Your Reach is just a fantastic track, and that is my number 1 favorite needle drop. But I liked all of them because the show does great on this.
11 needle drops in the finale.
Yeah,
God, there were that many.
They emptied the crates on that one.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
most of any episode this season. In fact, there were some episodes that didn't even have a needle drop, and usually there's like 3 or 4, but this episode had 11. So yeah, they were unloading the clip on this. I was, Kevin, I wasn't a huge fan of the Weezer one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It didn't set the right tone walking into Ever. It was distracting to me in a way. But yeah, this was a lot of needle drops, and I was coming out to this this recording and singing Billy Corgan, trying to do my best Smashing Pumpkins impersonation. I was just a little boy, and like just singing that, like it's just what an amazing voice, and I love Smashing Pumpkins. I don't know if it was the right song on the outro for the to be continued.
Well, it's Chicago, right? Like it is Chicago. They are the most Chicago band of that generation.
I wish we had more Smashing Pumpkins on this show.
Right.
Maze, do you have any other notes on The Bear that you want to get out while
as we're winding down our hour and 15-minute podcast, I've had about 5 different things pop into my head. And that's one of the things that's so great about this show is there's so much to talk about. I hope that Carmen goes and visits his little niece or nephew.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that he acts like an uncle and visits his sister who just had a baby. And I hope that they figure out somebody to replace Suge while she's out with maternity leave from holding the bear together.
Oh,
it's going to be computer.
Oh,
but I love this show. This was not the best season, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to come back. And yeah, it's been great talking about it with you guys.
Maybe Fact Brothers were there to try to justify the comedy category. That was this season being like, hey, we are a comedy show. Look at all these ha-has we have from these idiots, these bumbling idiots here.
And that's why John Cena deserves an Emmy.
Oh, no, don't do that.
I will let that be the last word. For producer Anthony Mayes, for Tom Haberstroh, this is Kevin Arnovitz, and this is Pack Your Knives.